You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
PackersTalk.com.
Welcome to the Packers Weekly Podcast, part of PackersTalk.com network. I'm your host, Miles Teddick, joined by your co-host, Tim Hamilton. We are diehard Packers fans, just love talking about Pack, not diving into all the national sports media BS. We're sticking to real football. We're diving into the top topics around the Pack every week, breaking down games during the season, sorting through all the stuff there is in the offseason, mostly draft stuff because we really like to nerd out on that. If y'all want to support the pod, please spike that like button for us. Most importantly, jump on over to the Packers Talk Network YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, little bell next to it for some bonus points. And we'd love to hang out with y'all every Monday night at 9:30. Talk some Pack. Sometimes we got to do a little venting, you know. This was a painful pill to swallow, I think, this Bears loss. So we're going to do that. We're going to get through this thing together. But not all hope is lost here. The playoffs are very well within reach. So football is left to be played, and we got to talk about it. So we're gonna. So here we go. But first, we got to get to some business. Our show is once again sponsored by Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For over 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packers fans, as well as Bucks tickets, Brewers tickets, all those tickets, Summerfest in the summer. You can find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. Remember, support all your local businesses, Wisconsin and otherwise. Those are the ones that really keep things going. So, Tim, good evening, sir. How we doing?
Good evening. Doing a lot better tonight than I would have been if we did a post-game show Saturday night after that game in Chicago. Would have got us in a lot of trouble. I don't think there would have been much coming out of my mouth other than a lot of swear words. So, had a couple days now to digest it all and kind of analyze it, and it sucked. That was a tough loss. That was a gut punch, especially a game that they controlled for 55 minutes. They were clearly the better team, and they did it for most of that way with a backup quarterback coming in the game, and obviously a lot of other key players being out of the lineup or really banged up trying to play through injuries. So it was encouraging, and Romeo Doubs recovers an onside kick, and the game's over. And he didn't, and all hell broke loose from there.
And if you watched what happened in 2014, the PTSD came rushing back.
Oh, it certainly did. And I still can't. I know people were posting clips like, look how I can't even watch those highlights from 2010. So I know
we're so distracted with the 2010 parallels. Now we got 2014 parallels bumping in here. Come on, keep it to one season at a time if we're going to rhyme with history.
Seriously. But yeah, Romeo Doubs recovers that, and I think the game's over from there. He didn't, and they couldn't close it out defensively. And yeah, it's a bad loss. But I'm feeling better about it now 2 days later. Not better about the loss itself, but being able to look at the positives of things. They're still in control of what they do the rest of the season. You know, they don't have to rely on anyone else. You beat the Ravens, you're in the playoffs, and take it from there, right? There's still a chance to win the division. So you control things yourself. And I think they're the better football team still than the Bears. Hey, credit to the Bears for coming back and winning that game. And, Caleb Williams made some throws, in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime that were great. The first 3+ quarters, he didn't really do much. But he made the plays at the end that he had to win the game. But I still feel pretty good about the Packers and their chances against the Bears by the fact that they dominated that with a backup quarterback. I would like to get through a game where they don't have an injury to a key player. That would be great if we could do that at some point. That would be nice to see. Might be asking.
That's where 2010 comes bumping back in. It's like, hey, remember when you were the team that had the most players on IR in the entire league, but you did win the Super Bowls?
And I mean, there's the parallel. Rodgers got hurt in a divisional game against the Lions in December. Got a concussion.
I mean, what are we doing, man?
So it is crazy to all the parallels and how similar it's been. But there are positives. I think we're going to get to those shortly. But yeah, the ending was just horrible. And to me, it was the worst part was the onside kick, because as soon as that was screwed up, I knew it wasn't going to end well for the Packers. I knew they weren't going to get a stop, and when it went to overtime, in fact, I was surprised the Bears didn't go for two once they got the touchdown. I thought they would just go for two and end it there. They kicked the extra point, and then I knew it wasn't going to end well in overtime. Even when they got the big play to Jaden Reed, and it was looking good, and then the botched handoff or play on fourth down, it was just horrible. And I'm seeing a lot of Bisaccia and fire Bisaccia right now because of the onside kick, and I don't think he should be the Packers special teams coach. I've been pretty clear about that for a couple of years now. Like, he should not be their special teams coach, but I am not putting that failed recovery and onside kick on Rich Bisaccia. They had the hands team. They had your veteran receiver who's been out there to recover onside kicks in the past. The ball went right to him, and he couldn't recover it. At some point, your players got to execute, right? You had the player out there you wanted to have out there. It's not like he lined up a linebacker or an offensive lineman in that situation to recover an onside kick. You had your sure-handed receiver out there, and he just screwed it up. That's completely on Romeo Doubs. And Romeo Doubs, to his credit, took ownership of that after the game and said, hey, we practiced that all week, repped it all week. I just screwed it up. And he did, and that sucks because he had a good game up until that point. But that's kind of where the collapse really happened. And I know the defense had chances to get stops too. They played pretty damn good without their best player for 55 minutes, so I can't put too much of it on them. Keyshawn Nixon, what are you going to do? He played pretty good for 55 minutes. I have more of an issue with him for the tying touchdown, or what ended up being the tying touchdown, than I do for the one that he got beat on in overtime, which I think was just a great throw. And he was there in coverage. He just couldn't break it up. And the tying touchdown, we don't know. That it seems like it was Keyshawn's guy to take the outside receiver, and he went inside with Hobbs. But yeah, between the onside kick that they couldn't recover and all the trips in the red zone where they couldn't finish drives with touchdowns, that was the game right there. Just finish one of those drives with a touchdown, and that would have been the difference.
Get one of those interceptions.
Yeah, to me, so that was everything. Recover an onside kick and not being able to convert in the red zone. And that's an ongoing problem now because they had trouble with that against Denver too in the first half. So frustrating loss that just drives you nuts. But
yeah.
It doesn't end their season.
It doesn't end their season. And I think that's what takes some of the sting away. But we already have a troll in the comments, so we'll own up. We'll own up. We don't shy away here. Chicago man, excuse me. Says, I got a question. How does it feel to lose to the Bears? It stinks. Don't like it. But, context certainly matters. And it took everything the Bears had to beat the Packers backups. So there's that. And
he wasn't in our comments 2 weeks ago, right?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Although I do hope the folks who were there last week come on back, because they were kind of fun. And hey, Bears won. Not going to say the Bears didn't win. My comments with context are not to necessarily take away, but it's just like, listen, man, you guys don't come in here acting like you ran the table or beat the brakes off the Packers. You guys, it took everything you had in overtime. Like some wild lucky breaks to get a win over the Packers backups. That's all there is to it. And that may you can call that copium for me. That's cool. I'm good with that. I need some copium right now because I'm hurting. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look at like going into the playoffs, am I scared of losing to the Bears if we meet them again in the playoffs? No, not at all. In fact, I think what you get from this is you get another chance to look at, all right, well, how did they get us in a few of those spots? All right, correct that. Oh, by the way, if we have Jordan Love, the game is totally different. So yeah, I'm not sitting here going, gosh, lost to the Bears. I don't know how you're going to beat them if you see them in the playoffs again. I just don't feel that way. Now, if you're losing, if you lose your entire starting lineup to injuries, I don't know what to tell you. You can't really predict those things. But when you have your starting lineup in there, I liked what I saw.
They moved the ball the entire game. They didn't punt the ball one. I like to go through a game where you don't punt. It's frustrating because the end result is they didn't cash those in for touchdowns, all those drives. But they moved the ball with their backup quarterback in the game consistently without Josh Jacobs. I mean, Josh Jacobs was playing on one leg. The guy was on crutches the Monday before the game and, limping around with one leg all week. And he clearly was not himself. And unfortunately, fumbled the ball. It was a key play in that game. But you're talking without Jordan Love, without Josh Jacobs, your two most important offensive players. There was Zach Tom in there. He didn't play at all. Christian Watson, who was in the hospital on Sunday and then ended up playing in that game. So, he's not at full strength. And they didn't punt the ball the entire game. Moved it up and down the field. They just couldn't finish drives. Now, you got to figure that out. That's obviously a key piece. You got to finish them in the end zone with touchdowns. They couldn't do that. So that's a Packer problem to me, but I'm encouraged by the fact that you were able, you weren't getting stopped really in this game by the Bears. They changed their defense from 2 weeks ago. When they played them in Lambeau, they blitzed a lot. They played man heavy. And they got burned doing that, so they came out and they played a lot more zone, especially when Jordan was in there. And then it kind of changed again once Malik Willis. But they definitely were a different defense schematically against the Packers in this game. And the Packers adjusted, knew what to expect, and moved the ball down the field on them all night. So that is encouraging, and there's nothing to be scared of. Definitely not scared. You got to take advantage of your opportunities to close teams out. And there were numerous chances to do that. Put the team away with a touchdown in the red zone, recovering an onside kick, Xavier McKinney dropping another interception. And this defense they just cannot force turnovers consistently, and that's a problem. And the Bears defense, that's what they've lived off of all year. They're not very good defensively, I don't think, but they force a lot of turnovers, and that can save them. And they forced one inside the 10-yard line, which the Packers score a touchdown on that drive. It's a different game, and we're talking about a Packers win here instead. So, yeah, that's a team where if we get them again in the playoffs, bring it on. Packers got to clean up their own stuff. There's nothing that I'm scared of with the Bears. Packers got to take care of their own business. And you can say that about any team that they may face down the road. Packers a lot of times are their own worst enemy, as they were in this game at times. So,
yeah, if that's not the story we're always telling, right? But yeah. I will say this. Look, we've been bullying the Bears for a long time. And we can pull up the records since 2010 or whatever. I mean, it is one-sided. All the observable metrics for success are, I mean, it's just one-sided for the Packers at this point. But the rivalry's back. These are real games now. These are meaningful games for playoffs, and they're close games or tough games. And as much as I will say that I'm not worried, if you got a healthy Packers, well, as healthy as it can be going through the playoffs at this point, Jordan Love at quarterback, I think you can beat this Bears team if you run into them in the playoffs. But the fact that we're talking about running into the Bears in the playoffs, we're splitting the series in the regular season. This thing's alive, man. These are meaningful games. And look, I'll even dog on Caleb Williams a little bit with his little 55% completion rating or whatever. That will not sustain you in the NFL. He's going to have to get better than that, or he won't last long. But he is a tough quarterback to beat, man. His legs are going to keep every play alive. And as much as I'm ready to dog on Gary as well, Rashawn Gary, there was a couple times where it's he was there, and Caleb he just made a hell of a play. And I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest improvement for Caleb Williams is that last year he took a ton of sacks, and this year he's been able to avoid that. His sack
he knows what to do when the play breaks down. I give him that.
And he doesn't turn the ball over much. Now, he struggles with accuracy a lot, but he doesn't turn the ball over much, and he's been avoiding sacks this year. So, yeah, those are good things. And I think the Bears they're for real or legitimate. I don't consider them a Super Bowl contender or anything like that, even though it's wide open in the NFC. But you can see the difference that the new coaching staff has made on that team. So yeah, I think the rivalry's back, but I don't think we'll see how long that lasts for, and we'll see how far the Bears can take it, because I'm not buying them as like this Super Bowl team or like this budding dynasty or any like a team that is going to like be the roadblock for the Packers. But I think they're going to be a team that's going to give the Packers a tough time now whenever we see them. Whereas a lot of these years, like you saw the Bears on the schedule, it was like, here's a win. How bad are we going to beat them? How bad are they going to look against us? You know, what are they going to screw up? And now I think it's, you got a battle on your hands every week, kind of almost like the Lions have turned into over the last few years. So maybe that's going back the other way again. But yeah, I think the rivalry's back on. I still think the Packers are the better team, though.
Yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I got to step over some Bears trolls to get to our friend Al here, who says, personally, I love that it's a real rivalry again. It was pretty boring beating the Bears all the time for the last 10 years or so, 15, 20, hell, maybe scan that out to 30. Yeah, you're right. It is fun. This is the oldest rivalry in football, the OG rivalry. Like, this can't be just us picking on y'all all the time. Let's at least make the games close and interesting. But also to Al's comment, Bears fans don't know how to use words. Nope, they sure don't. And they also are not very good with objective facts either, Al. So good luck in the comments there against all these Bears trolls we got. But there's a lot of football left to be played here. I was encouraged. It felt like really, you had a lot to overcome from the start. I was very, very last week after losing Micah Parsons, I was pretty negative. I was pretty pessimistic. And then I came out of it saying, yeah, look, Halfley, we're all kind of having a fun game, kind of halfway trolling him because we don't want to lose him to a head coaching gig. But we're doing that for a reason. It's because he's a good defensive coordinator, right? And a good defensive coordinator is not just one guy. He was a good defensive coordinator before Micah Parsons. So having faith in him, and he did. I thought he showed what he's got in that matchup. It was a good matchup, and let's not forget that Ben Johnson's a pretty tough play caller to go up against. And I thought he did well without Micah Parsons, adapting, showing some of those, what did we call them? Artificial pressures or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact term, but manufactured pressure. Either way, like, getting in there and kind of disguising some things, making it tough for Caleb to necessarily understand what's going on, pre-snap. And that's what it's going to take. So I was encouraged that they've done that. They've adapted well in the defense. We bring in a couple defensive tackles and they seem to be adapting well. Yeah, we've got some complaints. I'm not happy with Nixon. I'm done with Nixon. I'll say that. I was one of the holdouts on the Rashawn Gary train. I really felt like, give him time. It's going to pop, and then you started to see some good things early this season as a compliment to Micah Parsons. And now he's just a ghost, man. And there are some plays where he's right there. It's like, all right, fine. Yeah, you're still there. You are making an impact, but just there's some plays, man, you can see he's gassed. It's like, no, dude, you can't be gassed. You can't be gassed, man. Have you seen what Micah Parsons does? Holy crap. The guy is sprinting every stinking play. That, like, y'all, I don't know. Most people may not know how hard that is, but if you're that dude, which Rashawn Gary's supposed to be that dude right now, you can't be gassed in those moments, man. Like, seeing him pull up at times, like, oh, no. No. That's not good.
He looks really slow, and I think that's a big problem with their pass rush. What they're going to be facing now the rest of the season is that none of these guys win fast. Like, nobody can win as fast as Micah Parsons, maybe Myles Garrett. It's incredible how quick he can get to the quarterback. So not to use that comparison, but none of their rushers, Van Ness, Enigbare, Gary, none of those guys are quick winners. It's going to take them time to get to the quarterback. But yeah, you can see how slow, and just Gary's just, you don't need to devote extra attention to him. One guy, if it's a solid offensive tackle, can just control him. And even guys that aren't that good can control him. And then when plays break down like you're talking about, he's got to chase a scrambling quarterback. boy, he runs out of gas, or I don't know if it's an effort thing or what it is, but he's just really limited athletically, and he's just slow. He looks terrible right now. He's not producing. Thought there was a couple times where it looked like he was maybe winning his rush, and then Williams would get rid of the ball, but it's disappointing because you need him to pick it up, and if not him, Enigbare, Brenton Cox. I think Brenton Cox at least showed some burst and some energy his first game since week 1. So maybe that's a sign. Van Ness, boy, I didn't see a whole lot of Van Ness, but he is still working his way back from an injury that took him out for a lot of games, several games. So you got to give him more time. But yeah, the pass rush, they're not going to win quick. So you got to hold up in coverage. You got to confuse the quarterback maybe with what you're doing so he holds the ball a little longer so those guys can get there. And then you're going to have to blitz more. We didn't see it. I don't think we saw a ton of it from Halfley, but we did see it sprinkled in. I think we're going to see more as we go along here where he's going to be sending Cooper and Quay Walker more, maybe bringing the slot corners. I know Hobbs came once or twice on blitzes. So it's got to get creative because if you're going to rush 4 with those same guys, man, I don't think you're going to have much success. I don't see it.
My thought in the game, and he was able to do this a few times, was you've got to get players in spaces where Caleb Williams is not expecting them. And there was a few times where they showed blitz and then a guy dropped and was able to make a play in coverage. That's where I was kind of thinking. It's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe you don't have to bring 5 guys or even 6 guys to get the pressure, but at least show it to make him wonder who's going to be where. And then whenever you have to snap the ball and you get just a split second to decide who's coming at you and who's dropping, let's see how good Caleb is at processing that, or insert quarterback. That's where I thought they made the best plays. But those are gambles too. You've got to be careful because those are plays where if the quarterback does pick it up, they'll gash you. So you can't just throw those things at them every time and in every situation. That's where it becomes that game of chess about what do you expect them to do and what's the best way to counter that safely, with calculated risk, I guess. But yeah, and I think that this week will get even better. You're getting Chase Oliver back, it looks like. So that's interesting. Colin Oliver, Chase Oliver. Colin Oliver, getting him back. So we'll see what they think they can do with him. Not that I would expect him to be a big part of the game plan, but if you can get him 10 situational snaps where he makes a difference because he's fresh and the offense hasn't scouted him, so they don't really know what to expect from him. That could be exciting. Like there's some potential upside there for sure. I don't know that there's a lot of downside. Maybe he gets in there and makes some mistakes as possible, but I think that's where you only play him situationally to limit the kind of mistakes he can make. But yeah, you're going along here. I think Halfley's going to figure out how to better use the pieces as he goes. You got the Ravens coming in as a very different test, but I think you match up well. We'll get to that here in the second half of the episode. But yeah, I trust Halfley to adapt here with the pieces that he's got and the guys that are coming back. Even Brenton Cox getting another weekend. I'm excited to see what he can do, man. He's a big body. He seems explosive. Like he seems like a guy that once he gets kind of in a rhythm and comfortable in this defense, he can maybe make a difference. So yeah, there's a few of those. I'm encouraged about it. But this was definitely a very interesting matchup. I want to go to one of the comments here. We got Wilson Trey 31. Honestly, everyone's saying it would have been a win if Love didn't go down. I feel like it got tougher for the Bears after he went down. They weren't ready for the defense shift that was needed. That's a fair point. I think where I'm coming from, if I'm going to tell you that they win if they've got Love, is this game came down to one play in so many different ways. And if you've got Jordan Love, I don't think it does. That's just kind of where I'm coming at. I think the net gain of having Jordan Love in there, you're not even talking about this being a difference of 1 or 2 plays in the game. It's a different game. That's just my opinion, right? And, nobody's got a crystal ball, but Jordan Love's been playing pretty well against that Bears defense over the last, week and then almost another game. But no crystal balls. That's my perspective on that. I don't know if that is that fair, Tim. Is that kind of a fair way to characterize it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they win the game with Jordan Love, and I think they should have won it with Willis. I mean, definitely they're two different quarterbacks. Willis uses his legs a lot more, but I thought they were also more conservative with the passing game because of him. And it's almost like two different game plans for those, Love and Willis. So I kind of get that part of it. But they still move the ball with Willis, and they were moving it with Jordan Love too. So I, I think they win the game. They should have won the game with Willis, and I think they win it with Jordan Love in there. Um, yeah, I don't. I thought Willis played a really nice game, and I think credit goes to Matt LaFleur for being able to adjust like that on the fly, losing your quarterback, and incorporating some of the plays that Willis is more comfortable with that they probably didn't practice all week because they're not repping him. You're repping Jordan Love to get him ready, and doing a really nice job in managing the game plan for Willis. And yeah, he played a good game. They should have won with him. I think they would have won with Jordan too. But I get, probably what that person's saying is that it changes what the Bears do defensively, but even still, like you should be able to stop the run. And they didn't do a good job stopping Emmanuel Wilson. And then when Willis was able to throw the ball downfield on him, he made some plays, made some real nice throws for him. So, you should have lost to Willis, and I think you would have lost to Jordan Love too. But we'll never know.
We'll never know. We'll just never know. But I think there's a fair point. Like, it's different, and you catch the Bears defense a little unprepared now for a Willis game plan. There's some film on that, and you're kidding yourself if you think they didn't watch it. They've got a little bit of an idea of what to expect if Willis comes in because you've seen it before. But we don't need to argue about things that are unprovable. It's just your opinion, my opinion, all that. I think they win if Jordan Love's in there. And again, like I think if they play each other in the playoffs, and it's likely at Soldier Field, then I think the Packers, as long as Jordan Love is the starting quarterback, have a great shot to win. I'll repeat myself. I think Hafley, given another chance to go back to this film, he's going to have some improvement. He's going to have some different ways of solving problems. So your defense isn't going to get worse against this Bears offense. To be fair, Bears might get some injured players back, all that. It's all hypotheticals. We don't need to argue those things. But point being, we've got meaningful football between the Packers and the Bears, which is awesome because we haven't had that in a long time. I love it. I really do. I'd much rather have meaningful football between the Packers and the Bears than the Packers and the Vikings or the Packers and the Lions. I would say no shade, but no shade. Screw you guys. It's the NFC North, man. It's brutal rivalry, and I have respect for the Bears. I just don't like the Vikings, and the Lions still feel like the little brothers. Like, yeah, you guys did some cool things, but sit down. Let the big dogs fight a little bit here now. And as the only two teams in the NFC North with a Super Bowl championship, I feel like we're the big dogs in the division, and it should be that. There should be big dog clashes in the division, but I want the Packers to win those every time. So anyway, so what are your positive takeaways here from this game, man? What are the things that you're taking to go, all right, it's not that bad, and here's how we look going into the playoffs?
I mean, I think their ability to adjust when Jordan Love went out and run the offense and run it pretty smoothly until they got into the red zone. That's a positive, being able to adjust on the fly and put Malik Willis in there and seeing the success he had. I thought Jordan Morgan stepping in at right tackle, he wasn't perfect, far from it, but I thought he did a decent job for them. I know he gave up the one sack that it was pretty awful. Montez Sweat ran right through him. That was, I believe, the final play of the fourth quarter, and then he went to overtime after that. But other than that, I think he held up pretty well for a guy who has played minimal snaps at right tackle. It was nice to actually see him play tackle, even though it's not left tackle. I thought he did a decent job for them. So that's encouraging. And it allowed them to keep that 6 offensive lineman package available to them. Because if Kennard starts at right tackle, they probably don't go to 6 offensive linemen. Because Kennard's a 6 guy. So they at least had that available to him. I thought Emmanuel Wilson stepped up again. Had a rough game in Denver, bounced back, and he stepped up when it was clear that Jacobs just wasn't able to get it done. and he looked much better than Jacobs. And I don't want to knock Jacobs. The guy's playing on one leg. Probably shouldn't have been out there. Probably shouldn't have been out there the last 2 or 3 weeks, really.
He's just gutted it out, man.
Yeah,
I love that, though. I
he's
love
a
that
warrior.
mentality. I love it.
It's incredible, and I expect him to be out there against the Ravens. He'll find a way, I think. But he clearly looked not like himself. But Wilson stepped up to replace him and did a really good job for them. And I thought defensively, just the overall defense, being able to hold them to 6 points until there were 5 minutes left to go in the game without your best player, they did a really good job. But didn't have much of a pass rush, as we've touched on, but they would get the stops without that pass rush. At times they gave up some runs, but overall they were able to control the running game enough. That was a positive. And then one guy that popped out who he's in his brief time with the Packers, really, I didn't think had played well, but then he did against the Bears, was Jordan Riley at defensive tackle. I thought he did a nice job against the run, made some stops for him. So that's an encouraging sign. And then I thought Javon Bullard, filling in for Evan Williams, they had to bump him back to safety with Williams being out. Played a good game, played solid for him. It's always nice to have Evan Williams in there, but he wasn't, and I don't think they were hurt by it because Bullard stepped up and played well. And then kind of in tandem with that was Bullard going back to safety. Nate Hobbs had to play a lot of nickel for him, and I thought he did a good job for him. It was the best Nate Hobbs has looked all year. He's definitely a better nickel than he is an outside corner. It looks more comfortable there. The touchdown at the end of the fourth quarter, maybe we'll get some clarity from it this week as far as should Nixon have stayed outside? Should Hobbs have went with the guy outside because they kind of did like a little switch release? Hobbs was inside, Nixon was outside. You would think Nixon should have stayed outside. But I thought Hobbs did a good job for them. So, but yeah, those are some guys that just off the top of my head, really stepped up and did a good job for the team, produced and filled in, for some guys that were knocked out with injuries and not available. So, yeah. What about you? Were there any guys or any
Look, I got a surprise for you. I want to give some credit to my guy, Stenavich.
Finally.
Because in all of the offensive line volatility, I have to believe he is part of this, like the stabilization of the unit. I have to believe it. I can't give 100% of the credit to the O-line coach, Mr. Butkus, but he gets some of it. I don't know what the percentage is, but well done, Butkus. Well done, Stenavich. Yes, it's tough. No, they're not perfect, but they're also not a terrible liability that's keeping this team from scoring points. We're not looking at this going, gosh, the O-line is just terrible. Our complaints are in different places. And again, they're not perfect. I'm not saying they're the best in the league. Nothing like that. They're not perfect, but they're definitely not a liability right now. And so if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. Damn it. Credit to these guys. And I hope that this is a good sign of things to come. I hope that whatever they're doing with the O-line as they're moving these guys around, getting them prepared for these different roles each, week in and week out. Whatever it is, keep doing it. I want more of it. MJ's secret stuff. I got to have more. So whatever that is, keep doing that. Even Sean Ryan quietly getting some meaningful Pro Bowl votes at center. Like we were talking about Sean Ryan a couple years ago, not sure if he should make this team as a guard. And here he is stepping in at center. And again, not perfect, but damn, like he's not bad. He's not a liability. He's filling in at a position where we thought we were going to have somebody who is borderline all pro, and he's not a problem. And he's getting Pro Bowl votes. Meaningful. I think he's like 6th in the Pro Bowl voting or something like that. So, credit to the guys who have their minds on the offensive line, and I'm sure LaFleur has some involvement in that as well. But the guys that I've got to believe are the most hands-on are Stenavich and Butkus, and we have had plenty of criticism for them. So credit to them because it looks like they're handling the assignment well. And this Bears defense is not an easy assignment. Tough assignment, man. This is tough. It's a nasty game, and we know that. So they've handled it, I think, well. I would like to see a little bit more of an attitude whenever the quarterback is taking some shots. That's a different conversation that has been floating around. But as far as the coaching goes, I'm very encouraged how they are adapting and plugging new combinations of the offensive line in. Other positive takeaways, I'm glad to see Christian Watson out there. He looked like he was healthy and okay and ready. He wasn't just a decoy. Malik being able to come in and do what he did, I thought that was awesome. So I just wanted to reiterate that. But the defense is really rolling with a lot of punches, and I think that we can't look at that as some like lightning striking. Like, there's something going on. Hafley, and I loved his press conference that he had before the Bears game. We're not down. Like, we're ready to go out and kick some ass. Is kind of the tone of it that I took away. And I love that, man. Like, because I guarantee you it's probably not big, but these players felt that, man. They knew what Micah Parsons meant to that defense, and they felt a little bit of deflation. As soon as you hear your coach talk like that, whoo, fire's on, baby. Turn it on. Where's my brick wall? I'm going to run through it right now. And that's where it's like, oh, man, like that. I can't even troll Hafley anymore. Like, I know like he's going to be a head coach at some point. I did love hearing that he sounds personally invested in Micah Parsons next season. So, that was fun. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Things can change, but I love that at least that seems to be where his head's at, his attitude is. And so those are things that come out of this. These guys have no quit in them. They have no quit in them. And while fans may feel deflated, I'm one of them. It sucks to see all these injuries and now, you don't even know if you're going to have Jordan Love or Malik Willis this week. You don't have any guarantees right now. I think there's maybe some optimism that you'll have at least one of them, maybe both of them, but you don't know right now. That's up in the air, and that's frightening. That should be frightening. Because Josh Jacobs ain't in great shape either. We're not exactly doing great in the offensive backfield right now. So we do need some of those bodies to show up. But, this may be another direction people want to go, that you might want to poo-poo on the front office, but the front office, I think, is adapting as best as you can on the fly. It is tough to adapt in season, and they are doing it. Bringing in the 2 defensive tackles, they plugged in, they've been good. You cannot understate the move of acquiring Malik Willis for a 7th rounder. No, it was a 7th rounder, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it was. It was the 7th rounder right before the season started last year. Like, oh my gosh. And you guys want to throw stones at Goot? Goot is cooking right now. No one's perfect. And no one can predict injuries. But my goodness, the front office is on their game, guys. Watch it, appreciate it, enjoy it. If they sign somebody who is just working at your local grocery store, pay attention. It might be a real dude. Like, that's the point. That's where we're at, right? Like, everybody they bring in, you have to be like, hey, guy might be something. They bring in a kicker just out of, like I said, was he out of a grocery store? Dude was unemployed, and he breaks your franchise field goal record. This front office is cooking. Let them cook. Let's save all the stones for the front office. If you guys are trying to throw stones at the front office, I just encourage you, save those stones. Those are a waste of time right now. They are cooking. Let them cook. And that's where I would kind of I know, and again, I've already said I'm done with Knicks. I'm over it. I'm over the Nixon project. I'm so confident that this front office this offseason will do what they do. And we've seen them do it. When you have a position of need, they don't just throw one resource at it. They don't just throw 2 resources at it. They go sign a veteran or they re-sign a veteran. They make sure they got the veteran that they want in that position group. And then they go throw all the draft resources at them. I mean, look what they did at safety, and look what we have now. Safety was such a liability, and they were like, oh, yeah, well, Xavier McKinney. Oh, yeah, Evan Williams. Oh, yeah, Javon Bullard. Oh, yeah, we've also got Oladapo back there who's not bad. And Zane Anderson's a real dude. So it's like they don't just say, we might get to it. And I know that there have been some off seasons we want, go out and get the receivers or go out and get the pass rushers, and they don't. But then there's the times that they do, and it's just like they throw the resources at it and they solve the problem. And I feel like that is what they will do this offseason at cornerback. I think they tried that with Hobbs in some way. They didn't back it up with the draft picks that they needed to. And Hobbs, you got to probably give more time, especially because you paid him. But keep your head up as far as when it comes to the criticism of the front office, because I think that these guys are cooking hard. And I mean, my God, they gave you Micah Parsons. And if we're really getting, I know, hey, they suck with their first round picks. Great, they got rid of them. You just dodged an Eric Stokes and a Jordan Morgan, but you didn't give up an Evan Williams, a Tucker Kraft, or a Rasheed Walker. Like, those are the guys they still get to pick, because those are all your post. And even Edgerrin Cooper, like, some of your best players that you have right now are not first round picks. So anybody who's got stones to throw at the front office, just hold them. Just hold it, because this ain't the time. This is not the time to pick on the front office. They're cooking. And Tim, if you're ready to tell me I'm wrong, let's go, dude. Go after it.
I'm glad when you're talking about cooking, the first thing that I was going to say was I hope they cook up some cornerbacks, because
I know it was coming, but that was where my head's at.
I mean, they can do it in the offseason, but the problem is, what are they going to do now about Nixon and Valentine? I feel a little better about Valentine, though he can't tackle, but yeah, Nixon's a problem, and teams are finding him, and he ain't making plays. I mean, it's a struggle every week with him, and they just don't have anybody there that can. I guess they don't have anybody there. I mean, we saw briefly in the Vikings game, Kamal Hayden had to come in and play reps because Nixon got hurt in that game, and he did fine, but he was going up against J.J. McCarthy in a very bad Minnesota offense at that time. So I don't know if we really know anything about Haddon. It might be time to start giving him some of Nixon's reps. I don't think they're going to do it. They still really like Nixon, and they don't seem to see what everybody else sees. But it would be nice. I know they're not going to straight out bench him, but maybe you can start giving some reps. Like this series, Haddon's taken over at corner, and just see what he can do. They don't have anybody else that can do it. Just because they're so thin at cornerback. Bill Melton's basically a receiver again. Hobbs, we've seen him on the outside. He didn't look good, so I think you got to keep him inside. But Nixon's a problem, and unfortunately, there's a lot of good receivers in the NFL. They're going to see one this week. It's hard to hide him week after week, and teams are finding him, and they're finding him in the end zone, and he's getting beat way too much. So they got to do something. He's got to pick up his play, but we've seen it long enough. Like I don't know how much more he can improve. But maybe he can go from getting torched to just, all right, you're going to give up some plays, but just don't give up the big ones. Don't give up the touchdowns. Don't give them up downfield. Like, play competitive, be around the ball. Maybe we can get that out of him, but he's struggling right now, and they got to do better. Like, he's got to do better, or they got to give Haddon a chance to go in there and play.
Well, that's where I trust the evaluation from Halfley and from the crew there. I trust that they can get that done. They can, look at the film, be objective, right? If you're not good at your job, like, you have to, maybe you're not firing the guy, but you have to make a change. You can't just sit there and do the same thing over and over again. And that doesn't seem to be what Halfley is interested in doing, and then that's where, it's not Joe Barry, right? Joe Barry was interested in doing the same thing over and over again and hoping it got better. Halfley's just not doing that. So I trust they'll figure something out. Maybe it's giving Haddon reps. Maybe it's adjusting and kind of insulating him a little bit with more bracket coverage over the top. There's ways that you can protect somebody who's a liability. The other thing is you got to analyze, like, what are they doing well, and shift over to Carrington Valentine. If he's playing really well in press man coverage, you've got to find more ways to have him in press man coverage when he's on that field. And you can have mixed coverages, and there's ways to do that. That's maybe you got to trust your guys on the field to be able to execute those things, but there are ways to do that and get these guys in the positions of their strengths. And that's what I would hope Halfley can do. I wonder what that is for Nixon, though. I mean, he was able to play super aggressive and all of that whenever, the quarterback had less than 3 seconds to throw it because Parsons was breathing down their throat. It's a totally different game now. And we've got 2 out of the last 3 weeks against Caleb Williams, who is specifically difficult to get on the ground. You know, he's very elusive and is going to make you cover a lot longer maybe than normal. Certainly a lot longer than you were, having to cover with Micah Parsons on the field. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, you got to find a way. If you can't put somebody else in that position, you've got to find a way to make sure that you're putting him in the most advantageous position. And I trust Hafley to do that. You know, I trust the guys that they have out there to be able to do that. What I wonder about is Nixon's ego, man. He just seems like that dude he seems like a jerk, man. He doesn't seem like I didn't like this cheap shot on DJ Moore. I don't know if I'm in the minority on Packers fans on that. I didn't like that. Like, dude, get real, man. Like, that's just dirty. It's stupid. It's unnecessary. Should have cost him 15 yards. He's lucky it didn't. But that kind of crap just bothers me. There's ways you can get at guys and not be dirty and certainly not risk a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, I agree. And so as a quarterback, you got to be confident. You got to be really confident because you're going to get beat and you can't let it carry on to the next play. But him and I think Valentine falls in this trap. There's a lot of after the whistle trash talking and in your face stuff that is sometimes it gets called, sometimes they get away with it. There's just way too much of it from those guys, especially Nixon. It's like, dude, you're not good enough to be doing that stuff. And even if you were, you shouldn't be because you're going to hurt your team by taking a stupid penalty. Like, just stay out of that. And I want him confident, but I also want him to realize, like, you're getting beat. You're giving up plays. Like, you're not as good as you think you are. So you need to get better. You need to find out what you're doing wrong and work at it to get better. Maybe he is, and we don't see it. But I don't need him talking. I don't need him in everybody's face. I don't need, the pushing and shoving at times. Maybe not so much in this game after the whistle, and definitely the first Bears game at Lambeau. Like, just stay out of it. Just take care of business. You're not good enough to be that player that's going to talk all the time because you can't back it up.
No, and if you're going to talk after you've done something.
Yeah.
Because he's had some good games this season. Talk after your good games. That's cool. But shut your mouth the next week, man, and shut your mouth on the field. Like, that's the part that, we all went after. I think it was Burden that grabbed him by the throat and all that. Dude, guy didn't just grab you by the throat for no reason. Maybe don't put your throat within reach, especially after the whistle. Like, just get out of there, man. Like, that's the thing is he ends up in that position. Should he have been called a flag for that? No, probably not. I didn't like that. But just, dude, don't be in that position. Shut your mouth. Go run your mouth during the play while you are playing. The after the whistle stuff is just BS, man. It's a distraction too. So anyway, yeah, I trust that they can move on from that. Speaking of moving on, let's talk some Ravens, man. Let's see here. We got. Do we know about Lamar Jackson? I know he was out this last game and might not be.
He got knocked out against the Patriots. It sounds like he's going to be able to play. It just sounds like he's got a bad bruise. He took a knee to the back. Thought maybe it was like a rib injury or broken bones or something in there, but he's had all the tests done and they said it's just a really bad contusion. So it looks like he's probably going to be able to play most likely. And their season's on the line, so he's going to do everything he can to get out there and play. But he's real banged up, and he got hurt early in the year, missed a bunch of games, came back. He's just not the same player. And I think it's just all the injuries. He's had different, hamstring and knee injuries and all this, and now a back injury. And he was in a lot of pain. I was watching that game against the Patriots, and they kept showing him the side. He was in a lot of pain standing there. It's still incredibly dangerous, but he hasn't had that season. I think it's an accumulation of all the injuries. You saw it last year with Jordan Love when he got hurt and trying to play through it. Like, he didn't have as good a year as he did the second half of 2023 or what he's had this year. It happens, when you get hurt like that and try to play through it. But he is dangerous. He's not running as much as he used to, and that's probably due to the injuries. And when has run, it hasn't been the explosive runs, hasn't been the big, 40-yarders that we've seen from him. Having said that, you still need to treat him like he's that guy, because if you start rushing him and you get out of your rush lanes or you leave big gaps, he's going to take off and he's gonna get chunks of yardage against you. It's going to kill you. So you still got to treat him like that. But everything defensively should be about stopping the run, stopping Derrick Henry and their running game, because Derrick Henry's still really good, and they're going to feature him. And with a banged up quarterback, they're going to feature him a ton. He's going to get the ball a lot in this game. Sell out to stop the run. I know, Halfley likes to play back with the safeties or, move them around in disguise coverages. This is the game to fill the box. Take your chances. I know we just talked about Nixon and his struggles. I think you got to take your chances and let the corners cover those receivers and devote extra guys to stopping the run around the line of scrimmage. Zay Flowers is really good at receiver. He's going to get his catches. I think when he catches it, you got to tackle him because he's really dangerous after the catch. But you got to devote everything to stopping the run. Derrick Henry, the other kid, was it Keaton Mitchell? He gets the ball a lot too, and then Lamar in the running game. It's all about if they can contain Derrick Henry in the running game. So this is a big game for the front, defensive line, linebackers. It would be nice to have Evan Williams because Evan Williams has been so good filling against the run. Though I don't know if he's going to play. It sounds like it's probably got a couple week injury for him. So Bullard's going to need to step up and be a good run defender. But I think that's where it starts defensively, stopping the run. Man, it would be nice if they could come away with some takeaways, because it's an area of the defense that just hasn't been there all year. It's just lacking the takeaways. And McKinney's a prime example. He's had his hand on 3 passes the last 2 weeks and couldn't come away with them. Those are all passes last year that he was catching. So it'd be nice if they can turn the Ravens over a couple of times. But yeah, I think defensively it begins and ends with how well they can stop the run. Because if Henry gets out and has a big game, it's going to be tough for the defense.
Yeah, I agree. And he's a big dude. He's a guy that they have faced. At least LaFleur has faced in late in the season. Back when he was with Tennessee, it was one of Joe Barry's better defensive performances because they did largely contain him. But yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. It's not a guy you want to tackle when it's cold outside. He's a big man. He moves fast. It hits you hard a lot. So that's a tough day at work. But these guys, this defense is tough, man. Like they're not perfect, and in some ways they definitely need to get better, right? You got to get better at corners. You got to have more out of Rashawn Gary, but they're tough, man. They're tough. They're out there fighting you on every play, and I love that. I think that attitude is coming from Quay Walker. I think it's coming from Cooper. I think it's coming from Bullard. It's certainly coming from Nixon a little bit more than we'd want it to. But it's coming from all around the board. And, that's not going to just go away. That doesn't just go away. That is an attitude. And that's something that I think we've mentioned it before, but Mike Daniels made comments in the past about, the defense they need to have an attitude, man. They need to be mean. They need to be bullies. And not that these guys, I wouldn't go as far as to call them bullies, but man, they're going to fight you every play. And that is something that I love about this team. It's fun to watch. That even when they're gassed, they're going up and they're lining up again. They're going to fight you again. So I do think that Henry will get his yards. I don't know. I don't expect him to have a huge game. I'm not saying like 250 yards or something, but he'll probably have over 100 yards. You'll have to tackle him all day, and he's going to get some of those 5-10 yard carries, and those add up quick. But I think that they have the ability to do what they need to contain him enough to win the game. You've had plenty of tough tests. It'd be one thing if you've lucked out and had a streak kind of like the Bears had against backup quarterbacks or whatever. Just a bunch of bad quarterbacks. You haven't had a streak of just patty cake run games. You've had some tough run game assignments over the last several weeks. It's the Bears, the Broncos, even the Lions. There have been a lot of tough assignments against the run over the past few weeks for the Packers. So this is not a new assignment. It's just a little bit different. The style's a little different. What you're going to have to do to stop him is just a little bit different than the other guys because they were fast and a little bit more shifty and moving in space, whereas Henry's just going to beat you up. He's going to dare you to try to tackle him in the fourth quarter, and it's going to be a tough day. But if you have the lead, that is a lot harder for him to do. So that's probably your X factor there. So my question here though, Tim, for this one, who are your top matchups that you think are going to decide this one?
I think, well, a lot of it's going to depend on whether Jordan Love or Malik Willis is playing quarterback. It seems like one of them will be available. Don't know which one at this point. As you know, it's early in the week. I will find out more as the week goes on, because I think it's a different game plan with each of them in there. So I think if it's Malik Willis, I think you got to do a lot of the read option stuff where he's got the ability to pull the ball and go out and run. Because he's so good at running and using his legs and being able to scramble around or just design stuff. You go back to the package of plays that he was running early part of 2024 where he had to fill in for Jordan Love for a couple of weeks, and all the creative run game that they came up with for those games, and then matching the play action off of that. That's what you got to do. Go back to everything he did at the beginning of 2024 and bring that stuff back from Malik Willis. If it's Jordan Love out there playing, I put the ball in his hands because I think there's matchups that they can exploit. The Baltimore defense was really bad the early portion of the year. They were 1-5, and the defense was terrible. They made some adjustments, and it's improved a lot, but it still has its weaknesses. They don't rush the passer that well, and I think their cornerbacks, partially because they're not getting enough pressure, but it's just their cornerbacks are getting beat. Like Marlon Humphrey's getting beat way more frequently than he ever has for whatever reason that is. Maybe he's slowing down. But watching them against the Patriots, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the passing game. I think Christian Watson matches up very well against their corners. I think Jaden Reed can do damage to them. They have talent back there. They got a lot of name players, first round picks.
Hamilton's a hell of a safety.
Oh, he's really good. And the way they use him, that's what's changed their defense. Early in the year, he was playing deep. They brought him up closer to the line. He was almost like another linebacker, and that changed their defense. That's what flipped it and why they had so much improvement. He's really good, and you got to know where he is at all times because he's a factor against the run and the pass. I just think that you can get their cornerbacks, Wiggins and Humphrey, and I like some of the matchups, and I think Jordan Love can get it done against their defense, against their secondary and passing game. If it's Malik, I think you got to lean more run. And like I said, go back to the creative run game and some of the misdirection stuff that they were doing, some of the runs out of shotgun that they were doing last year with Malik, and then tie the play action into that. It's got to be a real creative scheme game plan for Malik. Whereas with Jordan, I mean, you want balance with the running game, but I think if Jordan's in there, you put it in his hands and let him air it out, and then hope that you could run off of that. But primarily, you attack them through the air and attack their corners.
Okay, so we're looking for the receivers versus the DBs. Yeah, I like that. I like that as a decisive matchup in this one because I do think that you've got some advantages there. Humphrey's definitely not playing well right now in PFF. He's ranked 105 out of 112. Not good. Wiggins, he's kind of middle of the pack. He's not bad, but not an all-star. And he's a smaller guy. There's a reason I know there's a lot of people that liked Wiggins when he was coming out into the NFL. But he's an undersized dude, and that was the reason that you could pretty quickly overlook that he was going to be a Packer. So they can take advantage of that, probably in more ways than one. I mean, Watson is the first one that comes to mind, but if you can get him lined up against a tight end in some situations, like he's a guy you could pick on. So yeah, this Ravens defense is not to be underestimated, but there's definitely opportunity. Yeah. So I like that, receivers versus DBs. Their linebackers are pretty good. I'd like to see how much you can try to make Hamilton a non-factor and how much their linebackers are going to dictate what you do because they're not bad. Smith's playing well. You got Simpson. You got Van Noy. He's a great veteran presence and pass rusher. They've got some real good, smart just good defensive football players there. And I think those are going to be tough guys to play against. So, kind of quarterback versus linebackers / Hamilton, almost sort of the chess pieces on the board. And that does vary a lot between Jordan Love and Malik Willis for sure. But yeah, that's kind of what I'd be looking at, because I think that if you're going to try to exploit those outside opportunities, you're going to need to be able to hold those guys on the inside. You're going to need to be able to hold them down closer to the line in the middle of the field, and open up those back end areas. So how you do that, do you get Jacobs going or run game going early to try to force them in the box? You could. That might be a tough assignment to try to do that way. Yeah, I think that's probably the matchup I'm looking at, sort of quarterback versus defensive quarterbacks and linebackers and safety there. That's going to be a tough matchup, I think. There's going to be a lot determined in those matchups there. The other one I'm looking at, though, is probably going to be, you got to look at this Ravens offense. If Jackson's in there, he's a threat. Henry's in there. How can our D line hold up against their offensive line? Their offensive line's not bad. There's some guys there that have been there for a while, some good veterans, some strong dudes that are closer to the top of the league at their position. Can you get some pressure? Can you contain? There was I can't remember. There's a couple moments where they broke contain. Like, you got to contain Jackson, man. Like,
oh yeah,
that's a big deal. So, flipping to the other side of the field as far as decisive matchups go, I definitely am going to be watching our D line versus their O line, and pass rush / contain being a big one, because if you let him get out there, kind of like they let Caleb Williams squeeze out a few times, he's going to hurt you, and he might hurt you more than Caleb Williams did. Because to his credit, Caleb Williams was always looking to pass first. He kind of held back, whereas if he took off running sooner, he probably would have gashed the defense more than he did. So yeah, that's probably the one I'm watching the most. And I think that our safeties can have a little bit of say in that. Similar to the way that their defense can have a say in that. Our linebackers obviously are going to be a big part of the game plan. But yeah, the D line is really going to have to hold up so that the safeties and linebackers can do what they need to do. Can they do that? That's the question for me. That'll be the matchup I'm watching. All right, man. I think it's time for predictions, huh? What do you think is going to happen here, man? We got a Lambeau Field game late December.
Yeah, and a really important game for both teams. Packers win, and they're in. They can also get in if Detroit loses on Christmas. So by the time they play that game, they might already be in the playoffs. We'll see. But I don't think they should even care what Detroit's doing. They need to bounce back. 2 straight losses. You need to bounce back with a win. And Baltimore has to win. They're on life support as far as their playoff chances are right now. But so you should get Baltimore's best punch, right? And they should give you everything they have left. And I think that's good for the Packers. They need that kind of game. I think the Packers are going to bounce back. They've had a ton of adversity the last 2 weeks between the two tough losses and then huge injuries that they've had to face. They faced a lot, and I think they're going to bounce back. I think that's the character of this team and what they truly are. I expect them to win. I'd feel a lot better about that prediction if I knew exactly who was going to be playing quarterback for them this week. But I think they get it done. I think they find a way with either quarterback, and they come out with the victory. And regardless of what the Lions do, they clinch their own spot with a win.
All right. Okay. I can handle that. Comments, guys, get in there. Throw some scores at us. What's going to happen? I think my prediction, it all has a pin in if QB3 is playing, it's all bets are off. So just say that, if QB1 and QB2 are out, all bets are off. Who knows what happens there? Because I think they said that the emergency QBs are Jaden Reed and Josh Jacobs, which Josh Jacobs is already a shell of himself.
They got a practice squad quarter, so he would start. But the fact that they haven't brought anybody in yet and signed anybody, I think is a good sign that at least one of the two will be available.
Yeah. No, I think if there was a serious question, they would already be at least preparing somebody else to know the playbook. So yeah, all right. Well, with that, I think this will be similar. At least it'll start, I think, similar to the last few games where you might have a pretty low scoring first quarter. You're sort of duking it out defensively, feeling some things out. But if Love is in the game, I think they're going to find some opportunities in that defense. They may have to loosen them up a little bit to do it, but they've shown with Watson in there, with some of these other guys are in there, hopefully even Golden, like we've all been harping on these guys to get Golden in there and see more of him. I think there's going to be some opportunities in there. They will have a willingness to take those shot plays. We've seen that. So hopefully they can hit on a few of those. Musgrave has had a few great catches. Obviously Watson's been having a good season, making some great catches. So I like our guys against their DBs, but it may take some time to hit those opportunities. If you don't hit those opportunities, well, then you're really in trouble. But no, I think the Packers can win this one something like, let's have some fun here. It's like the magic number 27. Magic number 27 to 24. 27 to 24. That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay, I like it.
I think it's just kind of a duked out game, but the Packers control, kind of like they have. It's close, but you got control. It's kind of how I feel it. All right. And then I know we got one of our good friends here in the chat, Matthew Tan. Glad you're with us, man. I'm sorry I couldn't get to your comments sooner, but he's got a prediction for us. Says Packers 30, Ravens 24. Well, look at that. Hey, me and Matthew on the same pages, holding the Ravens to 24 points. I like that. I think Matthew's the only one who threw a score prediction at us, but we got some Bears trolls in the chat. They're not going to pick the Packers. We know that. I don't think we got any Ravens trolls tonight. So, I don't know how many of those are out there. They're probably over busy with the Steelers or something, but yeah. So I think the Packers can win this one. I'm not going to go out and say they should. I don't like that word right now. A lot of things that should happen never happen. But I think they could. I think there's a very good chance you can win this game. You're at home. You kind of bouncing back. I guess what I would wrap that all up with a bow by saying I don't feel like the adversity has shut them down, has discouraged them in any way. I feel like this team is almost at that point again where they're kind of happy to be the underdogs and lean into the adversity. So we're going to find out. But that's where it feels like they're at.
Okay. I'm with you on that one. I think they can do it. I think they can get it done. The last two losses have been so tough. They need some positive. They need to dig deep and find a win here with all the injuries they've been through and these last two gut-wrenching losses that they've had. So I think they can get it done. This Baltimore team, not to be taken lightly, they're still really dangerous, but they're not the Baltimore teams that we're used to seeing in the past. Like they just the record 7-8, it speaks to what they are, and they've had issues with like situational football, with getting it done at key moments. They blew an 11-point fourth quarter lead to the Patriots. Patriots are a good team and all, but the game that Baltimore really needed to win, and they couldn't close them out. It's not that good of a Raven team like we're used to seeing, but they're going to make you earn it. They always do. So be interesting to see how the Packers respond.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to roll over. This I don't think will be an easy game.
No, absolutely not.
But there is, and I haven't looked at the real data on this, so there's a bit of a trend where I think the NFC is just better than the AFC this season in a lot of ways. It seems like a lot of the head-to-head matchups have been pretty lopsided between NFC and AFC, with certainly some exceptions, not 100% that way. But yeah, so maybe we find out that things are a little bit more lopsided than we thought. That'd be kind of fun. You get a big win at Lambeau to steal things out at home. But yeah, here we go. We got some good, meaningful football here in December. We're going to see if the Packers can clinch the playoffs this week against the Ravens. All they got to do is win, right? They don't need anything else to happen as long as they win.
As long as they win, or if the Lions lose on Christmas, that gets them into no matter what they do.
So down with the Lions. Sorry, guys, you're out. Sit down, please. But we don't want to clinch by somebody else losing. Like, let's win.
Don't worry about that. Go out there and beat the Ravens.
Win this game. Win it decisively if you can. Respectfully, right? The Ravens are a respectful organization. You got Harbaugh over there, one of the longest tenured head coaches, and some great players. But yeah, beat the brakes off these dudes if you can. for sure. Oh man, here we go. We got another prediction that flew in here right at the end. Oh, we got a theme going on here. I don't know if this means anything, but Shytex 03, Ravens 24, Packers 20. So we all agree that the Ravens are not going to score more than 24 points. Maybe that's how it's going to go. But fair. We got a troll in here. That's fine. No worries. Love you guys. Come on back. Y'all had fun hanging out with us tonight, talking some Pack and some OG rivalry between the Packers and the Bears as it is alive once again. Go ahead and spike that like button for us. Definitely jump on over to the Packers Talk YouTube channel, Packers Talk Network YouTube channel, and hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so you know when we're streaming live. But we stream live every Monday night, 9:30 Central, to talk some Pack. We go on into the off season. We're not missing a beat. We'll cover the draft. We'll cover some other things going on. And before you know it, it'll be the 2026 season. We'll be talking Super Bowl hopes once again. But right now, we got the playoffs in front of us. We got to set down our pessimistic feelings because the last 2 weeks have been tough, very tough. We're setting those down. We're moving forward. The playoffs are ahead. So that's what matters. So here we go. Have some fun this week, Packer fans. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Any of the other holidays, everybody, just enjoy being with your loved ones. Set down all the petty divisiveness, if there is any, between your Packers fans and your Bears fans, or your Packers fans and your Vikings fans, or your Cowboys fans, or your Eagles fans, or any of. We just got to set them all down and just have some fun, enjoy the season, because this is why we talk about this stuff, man. We love it. We love football. And family and friends and football all go together very, very well. Hopefully some good food in there to boot. But yes. So Tim, any final words here before we log off before the holiday season? And really, well, I guess we'll have one more before the new year, won't we?
We will. Just happy holidays. It's going fast. There's only 2 regular season games left, man. The season just flies by as
it does.
So let's enjoy this game against the Ravens. But before that, everybody enjoy your holidays and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll talk next week.
We certainly shall. And as always, Packers fans, go Pack, go.